Since 2024, a profound transformational cycle has been activated in the astrological map of humanity. Pluto, the planet of rebirth and radical change, officially leaves Capricorn after nearly 2 decades and enters Aquarius, initiating a wave of reform across the structures of collective thought, communal intelligence, and non-material sources of power. Saturn, the planet of boundaries and verification, is simultaneously moving through Pisces, touching the deepest layers of ambiguity within each person, reviewing the beliefs we once relied on and called spiritual truth. Meanwhile, Neptune, the symbol of spirituality, illusion, and high-frequency connection, is in its final steps through its home sign Pisces, preparing to withdraw after nearly 14 years of guiding humanity through the mists of spiritual idealism. But if we only observe the path of the planets, we will miss the most important message. This is a period when the vibrational field of humanity is being illuminated, revealed, stripped by the inner light emerging from cosmic movements. Pluto is no longer just restructuring societal frameworks, it is knocking on layers of awareness that are no longer authentic within each individual. Saturn isn't merely establishing external limits, it is testing the truthfulness of every inner state of being. Neptune is no longer allowing the soul to drift within its ideals, it is retracting every current of illusion that no longer connects to the root of spiritual integrity. We are living in an activation zone where the energetic light of slow-moving planets is shining directly into the layered reality of each individual life. Any personal frequency that is no longer resonant will be pushed out of alignment. This is not upheaval caused by karma or judgment. It is the pressure of illumination demanding resonance, and when light reaches in, only what is truly alive can remain. And within this stage, as the slow planets begin to shine deeper, not upon fate, but upon the foundational layers of vibration, 3 groups of people, or 3 modes of resonance, are being revealed most clearly. Not because they are wrong, but because the frequency they once lived by, operated through, or succeeded with, is now out of tune. And when resonance is lost, they begin to slip out of the shared current. Gently, but unmistakably. Group 1, those who carry old thinking, old intelligence, and old beliefs. This is the group of people who were once sharp, fast, and leaders in their field. They are used to understanding everything through logic, systems, and accumulated experience. But the very things that once helped them go far in the previous cycle have now become a burden. In astrology, this group often carries strong earth energy, Capricorn, Virgo, Taurus, or is heavily influenced by Mercury, Saturn dynamic. They may have Saturn placed in fixed signs, or Mercury squaring or opposing Uranus, which creates deep internal tension when facing change. As Pluto enters Aquarius, an air sign known for its breakthrough in new knowledge, technology, and collective consciousness, old mental frameworks no longer resonate. Those who operate with outdated thinking will start to feel that they are right, but no one is listening. They speak well, but what they say no longer brings real impact. The activation of mental frequencies during this time is not meant to make us smarter, but to strip away false confidence, habits of control, and the desire to conquer through intellect. Those who cannot soften cannot receive the light. The transformation needed here is not about learning something new, but about having the courage to question what was once considered true. It is about letting go of self-definitions to make room for the unknown. It is stepping down from the role of the one who knows to learn again like a beginner. This is the group most prone to silent crisis, when everything they used to do well no longer yields results. They remain persistent, proper, devoted, but they no longer feel alive. They exist within life but are no longer nourished by it. What they lose is not success, but the connection to the very thing they once mastered so well. In a world where Uranus is breaking patterns more aggressively than ever, and Pluto is starting to expose intellectual constructs that are no longer rooted in authenticity, Group 1 has no choice but to accept that they don't know, and to relearn how to think, not through memory but through intuition. Group 2, those who have lost connection with the body, energy, life current. People in this group often don't realize they're falling out of alignment with their energetic flow. They live steadily, do things well, and rarely complain. But because they live with so much responsibility and stability, they no longer leave enough space to listen to their bodies. They think they are living with discipline, but in reality they're running on old energy that has never been truly replenished. In astrology, this group tends to have the moon placed in challenged positions, like the 12th house, or in opposition or square to Mars without an outlet, or Neptune clouding the 6th house. Those with the south node in the 6th or 1st house, or with a moon-Neptune square often fall into this pattern. They romanticize endurance, believing they are fine simply because they haven't collapsed. What they lose first isn't health, it's the ability to feel. They wake up early but without a sense of inner aliveness. They smile but it no longer touches real emotion. They put in effort in relationships, in work, in their spiritual path, but they're no longer sure who or what they are carrying it all for. The current wave of activation isn't asking what they can do, it's asking how much true life force can they still channel. Recovery for this group does not come through rest, it comes through reconnection. When Mars in them is allowed to move in the right way, when the moon is softened, and when Neptune no longer clouds their core perception, that is when they begin to come back to life. They don't need to do anything big, they just need to breathe again inside their own body. They're the ones who always show up on time, the ones who carry the load, the ones who make sure everything runs smoothly, the ones who never let anyone see them weak. But because they never allow themselves to be weak, never permit the body to speak its truth, their life energy slowly declines with nowhere to go. In astrology, this is seen when Mars is not expressed through instinctual, aligned action, often found with Mars in the 12th house or heavily suppressed by Saturn. They are good at holding back, but don't know how to release. Their moon, especially if placed in emotionally absorbing signs like Cancer or Pisces, or clouded by Neptune, makes it even harder to recognize what's truly being felt. They may be angry but don't know it, tired but won't stop, drained but afraid to admit it. They think the fatigue is from lack of sleep, but even after resting, they're still tired. They think the loss of inspiration is about the environment, but even after changing it, they still feel empty. Because what they've lost most isn't external. What's missing is that they are no longer present in their own body. And as the energetic currents of this new planetary phase intensify, they don't move through the mind. They move through breath, blood, rhythm. If the body is closed, energy will pass them by. If the body is misaligned, energy will bounce back. And even if they have spiritual devotion, nothing will land, because there is nowhere inside them that can receive it. This is the group that needs to do nothing, no new knowledge, no added practice. Just sit, stay with the breath, and let the energy within them begin to speak. That is when Moon, Mars, Neptune inside them begin to reconnect. And that is also when they stop living by force and start living through real inner sensation. Group 3, those who live close to the light but lack true connection. They haven't done anything wrong. They are still the ones who bring inspiration, presence, and beauty to others. But when energetic light intensifies, when illumination penetrates into the core levels of vibration, only the light that is truly lived will remain. And any crafted light, no matter how soft, will be revealed. In astrology, this group often has a dominant Neptune without grounding aspects from Saturn, or a midheaven in Pisces, Sagittarius, or Aquarius, with no clear anchor in the second or fourth house. They carry the image of someone awakened, someone easy to trust. But within them, sometimes lies a Neptune seeking to be validated, not a current flowing from inner depth. When Saturn moves through Pisces, light is no longer allowed to remain vague. When Pluto enters Aquarius, awakening is no longer a noble ideal, it becomes a test of embodiment. A guide is no longer held in place by knowledge, they are only held if their internal essence truly resonates with what they share. Those in this group, if they do not return to the parts within that remain untrue, will begin to feel empty. No one casts them out, but the energy begins to withdraw. They can still speak, but they are no longer felt. They still show up, but they no longer lead. Not because of karma, but because the frequency of light has shifted and no one can hold light, they are no longer truly living with. They were once the ones people turned to in times of confusion. The ones at the center of the circle, leading others back to stillness. They have warm eyes, deep words, and an aura that makes others feel supported. But in this new energetic cycle, what causes their fall is not a loss of skill. It is the moment when the light inside them is no longer being sourced from a true place. In astrology, when Neptune is amplified by foggy aspects, like a moon square or a harsh alignment with Pluto, it can easily create an illusion of awakening. These individuals are not deceitful, not false, but they operate in a vibration that doesn't touch the ground. They share light that they themselves can no longer absorb. They teach meditation but are no longer deeply present. They speak truths, but the energy behind their words doesn't reach anyone, because the inner source is no longer lit. And so, when Saturn begins to test the truth in Pisces, when Pluto dismantles the illusion of roles in Aquarius, people in Group 3 begin to feel tired within the very roles that once gave them life. They want to stop but don't know where to pause. They no longer feel inspired by the path they themselves once led. Everything still happens, but they are no longer fully present in it. What they lose is not reputation, not followers, not praise. What they lose is the flow of energy from something they once deeply lived. When the light no longer moves through you and only reflects from the outside, the soul becomes tired, hollow, and slowly dims bit by bit. They don't need to abandon their community. They don't need to erase their role. They only need to step out of the image of the one who has arrived. They need to relearn, not doctrines, but sensation. They need to touch the part they've been afraid to name. Where inside has grown cold? Where are they avoiding living authentically? Only when Neptune reconnects with Saturn will their light be grounded again. And once that light is true, they won't need to lead anymore. They will only need to be present. And that will be enough. These three groups, seemingly different, are in truth 3 ways a soul can fall out of alignment with its own plane of existence. The old mind falls from the head. The misaligned energy falls from the body. The one holding a role falls from the light. None of them are bad. None are weak. But this year, the light no longer stays with what no longer resonates. An energy, invisible by nature, will always drift away from where it is no longer being channeled through true frequency. Those in Group 1, if they continue insisting on understanding through logic, holding on to structure, reacting with outdated thought patterns, will find themselves right, but no one is listening. Pluto in Aquarius is tracing back every region of consciousness that no longer connects to authentic wisdom. Those in Group 2, if they keep operating through willpower without returning to the body, will find themselves pushing harder only to feel more depleted. Their Mars, Moon, Neptune don't need to try harder, they only need to reconnect. No one is drained due to lack of energy. They are drained because they've disconnected from the source of their life flow. Those in Group 3, if they continue living through the role of awakening without facing the parts of themselves that remain untrue, will begin to feel exhaustion in the very thing they once used to inspire others. Neptune and Saturn are asking them to confront. The light you're carrying, is it still being sourced from within? They don't lose everything all at once. They lose it slowly, so lightly, as if one day they no longer feel excitement for what once made them feel alive. They no longer hear their inner voice clearly. They no longer feel connected to the people they once felt close to. Everything still goes on, but they're no longer there. For the old mind, the fall may come through a silent crisis, when they find the world no longer makes sense, when what's right no longer works, when people no longer respond to the logic they once relied upon, and they begin to get angry, withdraw, or try to do everything again only with intellect. But Pluto in Aquarius doesn't want intellect. Pluto wants you to release your old perception, to step into a level of knowing that cannot be defined. With a misaligned body, the fall is slower. No one sees it. There's no dramatic moment. Just one day more tired. One night less sleep. Only where they're still working, still parenting, still praying, but no longer feeling joy or vitality. They don't realize they're slipping away from their life force because they've never paused to ask, what is my body trying to say? For those living near the light, the fall is even quieter. They are still invited to teach, still thanked, but within them is a coldness, a space where the light no longer flows through. Neptune seems to be reflecting back an illusion they once built in order to survive. But Saturn traveling through Pisces will no longer allow that light to remain, if it's not real, because this is no longer a time for awakenings that haven't been fully embodied. All three groups meet at one point. They are no longer being filled with energy. They are no longer channels through which universal life force can flow. Not because they are weak, but because they are not yet truly empty for light to pass through. They are still full of old beliefs, full of roles, full of ideals, full of will. But energy only flows through where space has been made. You don't need to do anything big. You only need to change one thing, the way you resonate with the energy that is arriving. For Group 1, let your mind relax. Don't try to understand more, try to feel more. Trust in what is still unclear. Sometimes, sitting in the not knowing is the very first step toward true wisdom. Pluto doesn't need you to be smart. Pluto needs you to be honest about your state of unknowing. For Group 2, come back to the body. No need for more practice. Just stay with the breath. Let the moon guide you into sensations you've never fully listened to. Let Mars move, not to act, but to come alive again. When energy is truly being channeled, you won't need to force anything. You will naturally be replenished. For Group 3, let go of the role. You don't need to erase it, just place it down for a moment. Live again what you once said as if for the first time. Not to teach, not to transmit, but simply to remember, you too are learning all over again. In that moment, Neptune will no longer be a stage, but become the real light that flows from within. The frequency doesn't ask you to be right, it only asks you to be real. And light does not demand perfection. It only asks that you no longer cling to what is no longer you. Living in this current energetic field is not about proving anything. It is about returning, step by step, to what your soul truly needs to be touched by. You don't need to change everything. You don't need to start from zero. You only need to adjust one thing: the way you're listening to life from the inside. Because energy does not arrive for those who are stronger. It arrives for those who are still soft and true. The three groups in this message are not really three types of people. They are three vibrational states that any of us can enter as the slow-moving planets begin to audit each foundational frequency we carry. Group 1. Let your intuition lead before your intellect. Pluto doesn't need you to control. Pluto simply wants you to release. Group 2. Return to the body, not to push but to feel. Saturn doesn't require you to be strong, only that you be genuinely present. Group 3. Step away from your role for a moment. Neptune doesn't need you to shine. Neptune only needs you to be, not for anyone else, but for yourself. These three states, though they seem distinct, converge at a single point. If you no longer resonate with the frequencies currently being illuminated by the outer planets, you may start to feel as though you are no longer truly alive. Not because you've been cast out, but because you've drifted from the current. Astrology does not speak of fate. Astrology speaks of energy in motion and whether or not you are still in connection with it. If you sense you're falling out of rhythm with your own life current, you don't need to figure it out. You don't need to resist. You only need to pause and touch the part of yourself that's trying to speak. Pluto doesn't need you to be powerful. Pluto needs you to let go. Saturn doesn't need you to try harder. Saturn needs you to be true. Neptune doesn't need you to perform awakening. Neptune only needs you to be present as you are. And when that happens, the light from these planetary transits no longer feels like pressure. It becomes the new energy flowing through you, guiding you back to where your soul once began. Which group do you feel you belong to? 1. The one with outdated thinking. 2. The one disconnected from the body. 3. The one living near the light but lacking true connection. Leave a comment with the number 1, 2, or 3. Because sometimes just naming it allows a part of you to open and the light to enter. And if this message reached a deeper place within you, consider subscribing, because the journey with the outer planets is only just beginning. We still have many layers to shed, to understand, and to return to, in alignment with the true frequency of our soul. See you in the next video.